Okay, got it. What I understood about the APIs so far is that so can we say that Postman environment would be equivalent of like a command prompt, where you basically you can essentially use those API calls to do anything in, you know, in Okta that you would normally without the GUI, basically.
Yeah, you could say something like that. I mean, it's exactly what it is, right? You're putting your commands in, you're putting in calls, and you're expecting to get the information from your requests. So again, it's not pretty. It's just simply putting your URLs in, putting your variables in, and seeing what is spit out, just to see if it actually works.
Mhm. Got it. And then there's 4 different types of API. They're called API calls. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like, which is
So
basically like telling the API to do an action, right?
yeah. So just like what you see there, post, get, update, delete, all of those are API calls.
Create, adds new data, like
And
adding a new
actually, if
user.
you open up Postman, you'll see it too.
Retrieves existing data, fetching a user's details. Update, which is basically modifies existing data. For example, updating a user's contact info. Delete, removes data. Deleting a user.
And those are really like the foundational calls that pretty much everyone uses in the world. Of course, you can add different layers on top of them to make them, more complex, but that's the foundation, right? Those four functions pretty much do everything that most people need within the tech space, right? You want to see if
Mm.
someone's there, you're updating stuff, you're either deleting or you're just getting read access, right? So think about it in the aspect of identity, right? If you're an
Mm.
admin and you think of different admin roles, let's say, hey, you're an admin, but you also have a team of IT help desk personnel. Maybe
Mhm.
they're only going to get, read and update functionality, but the admin has the ability to delete and create.
So you can also, okay, got it. So you can give different levels of API permissions to different people.
Absolutely. Yep.
Got it.
So when you think about the Okta API stack, you'll notice that again, within the admin console, you know that you can be an admin, but you can also create custom admin roles. That also
Mhm.
dictates what kind of APIs that user can see or interact with, right? So, let's say if you have uh, an admin that has less access, maybe they don't get all the full opportunities that you do. Maybe they only get a few functionalities. So that's important to note as well.
Got it.
But again,
Okay.
everything that you see in that admin console, that is an API call. That is all through their API stack, through their access management that they have. So everything that you click on, every button, every result that you get, that can all be completed in Postman.
Or they can
So
be
think of,
completed by using the graphical user interface, correct? Both
yes, yes,
are possible. There are just 2 different ways of getting it to do what you want it to do.
exactly. They do the same exact thing, but the reason why some people want to, let's say again, some software engineers, some architects hate the user interface. They do not want to touch it. It's all fluff to them. When you look at
Mm.
your admin console, everything looks pretty. You have this nice menu on the left-hand side. You have all these beautiful, charts, logs, whatever it may be, that allow you to do, integrations, set up policies, so on and so forth. But let's say you don't want to look at all that stuff. You want to manipulate it based off what you know. You can really customize that in Postman and make it really fast because you set your variables. You can create your own environment in there. And it's more efficient if you're comfortable with Postman. Again, they do the same exact thing, but some people just like in going straight to the source. and other people like, you know, interacting with a GUI. So it just depends.
Mhm. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so let me ask you this question. So right here,
Uh-huh.
this, based on what we discussed last time, right? This would be
Mm-hmm.
a service provider initiated, meaning this is probably using OIDC, right?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. We don't know
Like,
for sure, but we can make the assumption that since you have various options, you're not pigeonholed into one form of SSO. It's federation, right? It's federated SSO because you have Google, GitHub, and you also have a singular one. So you see at the bottom where it says sign in with SSO, that might be an option that if you have a company that has a partnership with GitHub, or not GitHub, with Postman, I'm mixing things up. I'm looking above. But let's say you have a partnership with Postman, right? And you're not allowed to use other forms of SSO, then that would be just a regular single route of SSO. If you have other options, like you're opening it up to GitHub, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, that's a higher level of federation because you're allowing the user to pick which kind of federation they want to have, what kind of login experience they want to have. So that's just showing you federation on a broader scale is still SSO, but it gives you a ton of options. Whereas SSO is kind of like a singular path, like, hey, this company only wants you to do this way.
Makes sense.
And
Okay.
again, you want them to have some flexibility, right? Some customers
Right.
are more comfortable with Postman, more comfortable with GitHub, some are more comfortable with Google. So you want to give customers the flexibility and maybe uh, less options for employees.
Employees, right? Makes sense.
So let's
Okay.
see, you have a few workspaces here. All right, you can open up whichever one you want.
These are workspaces? Or
No, that's just documentation, but at the top you had some workspaces. Yeah, like you had those. So you could open up any of those, I think.
oh, it says locked. A workspace is basically what? Like a project environment?
Yep. Yep. That's where you're going to make your calls. That's where you're going to set your variables.
Is this it? Am I inside of the workspace now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, you are. Yep. So let's see what you have on here. So it just says discussion of Okta API, which Okta has two. They have their authentication and their user management APIs. Okay.
Do you think we should go through
Doesn't
this
look like they
thing?
have much there.
Like
Yeah, I mean,
understand
I
all
want you to
these.
follow the yes. So let's see. You have the user's API. It doesn't really look like they tell you much there. It looks like they give you visuals. I'm waiting for the groups one to load. Yeah, it doesn't look like they say anything. So have you, all right. So let me see your Postman again.
Mhm.
And let's see. So have you installed, oh, you, sorry. I see the study guide is the top portion. The lab is ready for it, but you
Mhm.
can go through the lab guide and we can actually start doing bit by bit. So you've already set this up. So I think if you scroll down a little bit, you might have to um, install or I'm sorry, upload your Okta workforce. So have you done that portion?
I mean, I don't know if I did
And
it
this is
before,
just
but not
essentially
recently.
bringing the environment in.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this. I mean, I'm sure I probably did it, but I don't remember how to do it.
So let's see. I'm scrolling through. So you've already set up your workspace.
Mhm.
Yep, you already have a name for your workspace, which is totally fine. And download the Postman collect text file by clicking this, okay? And you'd want to import that. So if you scroll down a little bit, there should be a postman.txt file right there, yeah.
So what does it mean
So
to import the Okta environment in this? Like, you mean like we're now taking the Okta environment and like connecting it with the Postman so we can use Postman to take actions inside of our Okta tenant? Is that what that means?
So you're not doing that yet because you actually need credentials to connect Postman to your environment, right? So I don't know if you've heard like an API key or a client ID and secret. Those are credentials that are unique to your environment that allow Postman or other sources that use your API to identify that's your environment and connect to it. But what you're doing right now, that postman.txt file, if you notice in that image below, you'll see that it says like get, post, all that. It's pulling all of the functionality that's in the API like tech stack or deck into your Postman. It can't do anything yet because it's not connected to your environment, but it's pulling the commands into your Postman. So when you set it up with your variables, with your API key, it can actually do it. So right now you're just getting the buttons to click, but it's not connected to your environment yet.
Hmm. Okay, makes sense.
And this is the first step for all Postman environments, right? Typically, unless you're making your own, there's usually a library out there that you can always download, import. So it's a foundation that gets you started and it builds upon what you can do.
Got it. Okay,
And
so
you
do
might
I?
actually already have it because I'm looking and it says certified developer exam. So if you go back to your Postman, I know it said certified something. So you might have already had this. Yeah. So open that up. Yeah, so you already imported it.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll see that it says Okta API, Okta API. So it's saying you pulled the Okta API library into your Postman to start testing with. This is
Can we do it
also,
again? Do you mind if we
yeah,
do it again from like create a new
absolutely.
workspace? Okay. Because
Absolutely.
I don't remember, like it was at a time where I didn't know anything about anything. So
So yeah, you can create a new workspace and you can call it whatever you want. Yep, you want to use a blank one. And I don't know if you'll notice, but this is also really helpful for someone who didn't want to go through, like they just wanted to test a few things in Okta and maybe not have like a full trial or something. Some
mm,
people do this as well.
okay.
Okay, so let's see. You already downloaded the file, right? So you're going to click import.
Maybe they deleted it.
No, it should. I mean, even if it's not there, you could easily, other tab that you have, scroll all the way down.
Yes.
Yeah, try that. Download that. And if you notice, you see this is the information. So this is the exact schema, meaning this is the JSON that has all of the commands. All of your APIs are in here.
Mm,
So you notice there's a post right there, some basic information. So this is just setting up the schema for all those commands that you're going to be able to run.
So this right here is the what would this be called? Like what do we call this?
It's just your JSON schema. That's all.
And this is basically the file that's helping me connect connect Postman with the Okta environment, right?
Yeah, it's essentially your roadmap to all the functions you can do within the console. So each one says what kind of request it is, what kind of requirements they need, and what kind of result you're supposed to get. So some are like, if it's just a create, it's expecting you to put information. If it's delete, it's going to delete the information, right? If it's an update, it's looking against the system to check, hey, what needs to be updated. So you'll notice and you'll understand it more once it's in Postman.
So are you familiar with Jenkins or like
Yes.
repository? So basically, can we say that this works similarly to Jenkins, where you were using Postman as like a middleman between two things to get them to communicate with each other? Does this work the
Sure.
same way as Jenkins? Because in Jenkins, like you have the code that you write in your, your machine, then you're pushing into Jenkins to then push it out to, I don't know, GitHub or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. So like you just want to look at Postman as you're inputting information and you're getting JSON responses back.
Okay. Import.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So now you already brought everything in. If you click that first one, users Okta API, you'll notice underneath there, you have all of these files. So if you notice, Okta breaks it down very easily. And this is why it's nice to look at the Postman collection or your APIs in here, because it easily breaks down what Okta does. You'll notice that Okta has APIs for their users. So when you think about that, what can you do with users? You can add users in, you can delete them, you can give them different access. All that happens right here. When you think about lifecycle operations, that's provisioning and deprovisioning. And then, of course, adds on to it if you go to groups, then you can see that they have other authentication options, right? So OIDC, API access management, other factors, apps, and more. So again, it's just showing you what you saw in that admin console just here, right? All the things that you could click on are right here. Now you'll notice that there's other files in here. So there's like create user, list user. So as you can tell, if you think of create user, ideally that's going to be a post, right? Just like those CRUD functions that I showed you. So if you click on create user, yeah, so like create is a post. It's adding a new user into the environment. So you should have all posts in there. That's just common sense, right? It's if you're going to create something, it's going to be a post. If you're listing something, it's most likely just going to be a read, right? So whatever that is, I never remember. But if you open up those list users, maybe it's just a get. Yeah, I think it's a get. Yeah, I'm saying it out loud in my head. So if you click list users underneath there, it should be gets, right?
Oh, it shows you next to it. Oh, I see it.
Yes. So remember those CRUD functions that I mentioned, really simple, create, read, update, delete. What you'll see in your Postman collection are typically those four, right? And four, as you see update, there could be two there. So it could be put or patch. But you'll know that when you're in Postman, you'll typically see, and what's great is that it's color coordinated. So if it's like a get, it's green. If it's a post, it's yellow. If it's a delete, it's typically red or something. So you'll know visually that this is what you're doing when you're making those API calls. And it gives you a better understanding of when you're talking in your environment, you know, not just because of the verbiage of the call, like it says create, but you'll actually know, hey, behind the scenes, I'm actually taking that information and posting it to a server to store that user there, right? I'm storing that in a database, and that's how my user is being created. It gives you a better understanding of some of the functionality behind it, and that's also why Postman's pretty good.
Right.
Any questions there?
Nope. What I got is that, each of these, next to each of these actions that you can take using Postman, Postman tells you what type of API call it is. The post one is basically a write, like you're adding something. Get is you are reading something.
And if you
Delete
actually,
is
yeah,
you're
I'm
deleting
glad it's
something.
red. I'm glad I still remember because I was like, I'm not in Postman right now. So matter of fact, if you go, yeah, you can open up any of these if you want to just get familiar with them. You can open them up. You can actually click on some of them too. So if you double click on any of these, it'll open up on the left-hand side and you'll see, right? So what's important here is that you'll see at the beginning what kind of call it is, right? And you see that they're color coordinated. So you'll see the CRUD functions of get, post, put, delete. You also have some other ones there, but that's not really important for right now. You'll also see that there's a URL next to it.
Post is to create. Get is to read. Put is to update. Delete is delete. What did you say after that? There was something else?
So you'll notice next to post, you'll see a URL. So this is exactly what you see on your browser. This is why it's cool because again, you're doing everything that you typically see as an end user right here in Postman. So you'll know exactly what URL is being called. You'll notice that it's pulling in OAuth 2, right, for authentication. You'll see it's version 1. You'll also see a token. So you understand that it's going to be utilizing some type of access token for this particular call. And your URL is typically, your environment URL, right? Because we're going to connect to your environment anyway. So whatever your environment URL is, that's what it is. And again, this is giving you deep understanding of what's happening underneath the hood, right? Because when you're just in the admin console, you're clicking around, but now you fully understand that every single thing, every single function in there has some form of a URL connected to an API to run that function. So if something looks off, like let's say I put you in my environment and I'm like, this isn't working. Your first rule of thought could be, let me see your URL. What are you actually trying to achieve here? And sometimes you can look at that and say, hey, you're actually not trying to create a user. You're trying to actually use an access token. Why don't we take a step back type of situation? So also, if you click headers underneath over there where it says like headers and no, I mean right underneath the URL that we were just looking at. Yeah. So this is just, again, showing you some key value pairs or some variables that you'll be using. You'll notice that some of them are hidden. Can you click that 9 hidden? Go up a little bit. Yeah. So you notice, again, this is super high level. You don't have to remember this. This is only just because I'm a software engineer. This is just additional information that is coming in so we can identify what's needed for this call. So if you think back to that giant schema that we were looking at that you downloaded, this is just signifying what bits of information you also need that you don't have to provide. The collection's already been created for you, but it's just showing you some other things that are included to actually run this call. So let's set up your environment now. So looking at this, I think the second part in your lab is to, create an Okta environment, which you already have an Okta environment. So let's see, it looks like you got contain API requests, configure Okta tenant, and select the Okta environment. Okay. They don't really give you a lot of They just give you images. That's interesting. I see. Okay, I see why this could be annoying. No one tells you actually what you're doing. They're just like, click here. That's
Mhm.
funny. That's funny. I wonder who came up with
Yeah, a
this.
lot of these labs are just like this. It's just like do this, do that, but I have no idea why I'm doing what I'm doing and what does it mean.
Yeah, that's strange as to why they would do all that, but not tell you. Okay. So first, what you want to do, if you notice this image right here, you have 3 steps. So it says contain API request, which you already did. You imported a collection. So that's what you see in there, right? That postman.txt file, that was the Okta API collection. And if you go back to Postman, actually, I just want to make sure that I'm correct on this. So you'll see, yeah, you see how collection on the left-hand side is overshadowed in gray. So that's your collection, right? Everything that you imported is a collection. That file is your collection. Click environments. So you notice there are no environments here. And what that means is you haven't set the variables to connect to your Okta environment. So let's just signify what the 2 things are. Your collection is the library of the API that you imported. You can create it yourself if you're building your own application, but typically all of the most publicly sourced APIs are out and you can download them and put them in here. So your collection is your API calls, it's all those CRUD functions, and your environment is the variables that come from your environment, meaning your admin login, your admin password, your API key, all of that stuff is going to be stored in your environment. So you would create an environment to store the information from your admin console. Does that make sense?
Yes, somewhat. So basically, you would create an environment here, which would take all this stuff which you just imported from Okta, I guess, right?
No.
Like that file that we just downloaded from here, what
What is that?
was that a schema of all the possible things that are in Okta?
Yes.
Like where do these things come from, basically, is my question.
They all come from Okta,
So
but
this
they
came from
don't,
that
but they,
text file, right?
yes,
These
all
are
of
all the
that came from
different
that schema.
types of requests that can be made,
Yep.
right? So basically, we're putting this in the collection. We're saying that, hey, these are the all different types of requests we could possibly make with
Yeah.
with
These
our
are all the
APIs.
buttons that you see in your admin console. All the buttons that you see, that's what that is.
That's what this is, the code behind the buttons,
Yep,
essentially. Got it.
exactly. So now it gives you a grander understanding that anytime you click a button, understand one of those are being clicked behind the scenes.
One of these APIs. So basically, any kind of button on the web, they work like this.
Yep,
When you click any
exactly
button,
just
like
like
if
that.
I click this invite, there's on the back end, there's one API, maybe like a get or something call being made, which is
Yeah,
basically
it's gonna be a post, right? Because you're gonna
post
put
sending. Sorry.
information in and send it out somewhere to invite
Mm,
someone.
interesting. Got it.
Yeah, so any button, any function that you see anywhere online, that is being called somewhere this way.
Mhm. Got it. So these things, okay, so these are all the buttons. These are all the basically the wiring behind the buttons, and then this environment is basically where. Hold on, let me think about it for a second.
Okay.
Is this where you are taking some of those sets of buttons and plugging them in so that you can
Nope.
click them to take the actions in Okta?
Nope. Your environment is your environment, right? So like, when you sign up for your developer portal, you provided your username and a password, right? You provided an email address and a password. So that's just basic admin information, right? That has nothing to do with the functions that that has nothing to do with the buttons that you see in the admin console. That's just your environment. When you think about environment, it's really just the unique identifiers that apply to you, right? So if you create a new user, right, you're storing that information somewhere, that's in your environment, right? That's your own database of users. Does that make sense? Like when
So
you
this
use an API key, that's not
Mhm.
an Okta, that's unique to you. You created that API key, maybe within Okta, but that's only for you. It's no one else has access to it. I can't see it. Nobody else can see it.
So this environment is basically for you to, it's like a sandbox inside of
It's
this
for you
Postman.
to it's for you to interact with those buttons. Because naturally what happens is when you create an Okta tenant, when you create that admin console, you're in the GUI pressing the buttons and you're already good to go, right? Everything works. But when you're in Postman, you do not naturally have that connection. So what your environment variables are is your ability to pull in the variables so Postman and Okta can be connected. So when you click on those buttons, it works. Because right now, if you go to collections and you try to fire off one of those buttons right now, let's say just click any of them, just one of the post ones or something. Yeah, like click any of these and just hit send. Yeah, couldn't resolve the host, right? It doesn't know where you're trying to pull the information from because you haven't set up where they're pulling the information from. There's zero connection here. It's a one-sided, like, you know how we're supposed to transmit information back and forth? Right now, it's trying to pull information from nowhere.
Because the Okta environment hasn't been connected yet.
Yep.
So we're clicking the buttons, but the buttons are not connected to the light bulb,
Yeah,
basically.
they don't work. They're there, but they just don't work right now.
Mhm.
Any of these, none of these will work because there is no environment. There is no place that we can actually pull the data from. Unless you want to put fake data in here, which is also a little annoying. You could do, but it's just annoying because it takes a little bit more time. So none of these buttons work unless they are connected to the environment that we know is already working.
Mhm. And that environment would be here.
Yep.
And this environment would come from, like, what would be in here once we fill this in? What kind of information?
So basic information, number one, your API key. So your API key is giving Postman access to the APIs within your environment. So all those buttons within your admin console, that API key is saying, hey, Rafi, you're allowed to use this somewhere else. So that's just giving the permission and the option to actually start using those buttons outside of the admin console. You'll also probably have your login information because you're an admin. We want to make sure that whoever's updating the environment is the person who's supposed to update the environment. Let's say if you are an admin and I'm just a regular user, if I downloaded this Postman collection and did certain things, right? Let's say you gave me the API key. Based off your environment, you might already give me a help desk admin role. So I won't be able to do some of these. I won't be able to click on some of the functions. So it's supposed to mirror exactly what you have in your console. If I have limited access, it's also supposed to mirror limited access in your Postman collection.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Sort of, yeah.
So for example, like you would have your API key, you would have your admin credentials such as your email address and your password. Um, Usually those are pretty much it. You might have a client ID and secret depending on what applications you may have in here. That's not important, but what I will say is, like, let's say you and me are both working in Postman. I have my own, you have your own. We're working in the same environment. So I use your API key. We're working in the same environment. If you have policies set up, some rules and restrictions for me, just because I'm in Postman and I see all these buttons, they're not supposed to work for me if you as the admin put some restrictions on. And ideally, that's how it is in Okta as well. So just because you see everything here, it really is supposed to be an exact mirror of what you can do in the admin console. So any type of restrictions, policies, whatever you put, any rules, it should be the same in here as well.
Is there any way that I can see what this would look like filled in, like with information in it?
Yeah, so you're actually going to do that right now.
Okay.
So first things first, you're going to go actually, and I'm just making sure I'm covering everything in here if you look at this when I'm not around. So if you click in the top right where it says no environment. So right now, actually, let me stop. You already, on the left-hand side, you clicked environment and there's nothing here, right? There's a new environment, but there's no variables. In the top right, there is a no environment drop down. You'll notice if you click it, there's only new environment, which we know has no variables. This is just showing you that if you had multiple tenants, you can set up multiple environments in here. Let's say like you're a B2B customer and you have 18 different partners that you work with. You can test out different environments by switching between different environments. That's all that means. So it's, again, still isolating the environment. So, you know, whatever function you do in one won't impact another, if that makes sense, right? So if you add a user in one, they won't be in the Acme environment. So now I want you to go into your Okta admin console.
Oh.
Not in here, yeah. And I guess security. Man, I have not done this in a while. Security. And API. And you're going to want to create a new API token. So click tokens. Yep. And create new token.
Val, can you give me 1 second? Someone's at my door. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, so you're going to create the token. Okay, so what do you want to name it? You can name it like Postman, or yeah, you can just say Postman API or something. And then API calls made with this token must originate from any IP. Oh, look at them making it more strict. Good for them.
What
It's
did it
up to
used
you.
to
You
be?
could,
A lot more options.
no, actually, before they didn't have it. So look at them being more secure. Proud of them. That's great.
So that so basically what we're doing right now is we're making a like I'm not understanding how what this process is. We're creating an API token.
Yes. So an API token, think of it like a password. A password, it's a unique identifier for your environment. So without this API token, you can't call the APIs within your environment. It's essentially with this token, you're giving your Postman permission to click the buttons in your environment.
Got it.
Yeah. It's just a unique identifier. That's all it is. A secret password just to use it. So you could just say any IP. It doesn't, I don't think you're doing anything crazy. Create the token. And you want to copy that? So, okay, got it.
Okay, so can you explain to me a token basically is okay, how does it already know that it's gonna be from Postman? Did we select that as an option?
So it doesn't, so it's not from Postman. So I want to signify that Postman is just the name you
Oh,
gave
that's
it.
what we gave it. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
you could call it anything. You could say, it's Wednesday. It could be anything. That's just the name you gave it. Typically, the reason why you give it a name is because if you're testing other things, let's say you're testing another environment, you're testing someone else's API, you want to identify it. So oftentimes you might have other API collections in here. For example, all the SaaS applications out in the world today, they are typically open source. They all have an API that you could use. So maybe you're using Salesforce API. You could put that in there. Or you're using Ping's API, Ping Identity. You could put that in there. So it's just identifying where you're actually going to be using it. That's what I like to say. But yeah, it could be named anything. So it's not coming from Postman, it's coming from Okta. This is an Okta unique identifier for your environment.
Got it. So this token is basically going to be what will, when we take this token, I'm gonna assume we're gonna put this inside a Postman. This will basically connect this particular Okta instance and environment with that Postman environment. This token is how they're gonna
Yes.
communicate with each other, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Because as you see, this Postman token is saying, hey, Rafi, Postman actually has access to click buttons in our environment today. It's like an
Mm.
access card. It's a secret password saying, hey, I'm giving you permission to do this. I'm giving you
So,
permission to press the buttons.
oh, I see okay, okay, got it. So we're gonna be using our Postman to click all
Yeah,
these
you're going
buttons
to be
here using the API
clicking all
calls.
those in Postman.
Interesting. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so now go back here.
So, yep. So now you can go back there and can you change the name of that? I don't know why I don't like new environment. Can you just change it and just say it's like, I mean, it could be anything. You could just name it Okta. You can name it your whatever you call your environment. I just naming it new environment just doesn't sit well with me. Awesome. So can you actually click the three dots next to it? I've never done, I haven't done this in a while. Create. Okay, no, I don't want to do all that. All right, so let's add some variables in here. So this is your new environment. So let me see what tools you have in here. So you already got that. You're in your environment. Please create all the variables within the environment section. So first, your first variable, it looks like you should put your URL. So type in URL in that add new variable. And it all could be lowercase. You can just say URL because that's what it is in other sections as well. Okay. And then it says your URL will be your Okta URL. So when you go back to your environment, your Okta admin console.
Real quick, Valerie, how much longer do you want to meet? Do you have any idea? Approximate?
Um, probably like 15 more minutes.
Okay, that's fine. We
Yeah.
can then end at 3 if that's cool with you, because I have another meeting at 3.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool.
So let's go back to your Okta environment. And can you actually click those 4 square buttons next to your name at the top right? The 4 square. So you can go back to the end user console. Awesome. So I need you to copy everything from .com all the way back. So it should be like HTTPS. So yeah, that's great. Yep. And paste that in initial value. Enter. Oh, just click current value. Yeah, there you go. I was like, I don't know why I did that. And then underneath that, add another value, add new value, and say API key. All can be lowercase, and make it one word. And then paste that API key that you copied into that notepad. Okay, and then the two other ones, you'd want to create, it says you want to create an email suffix. So add new value and do email dash suffix, SUFFIX. And I think you can just put your own email address in there. It says okta.com though. I don't know why they do that. Or whatever. And then underneath that, it says
where does it say
pass.
that Okta.com? Where does it say that?
I'm literally looking at the instructions. I'm like, I don't know why they would put that, but it says they put okta.com. So you can, I'm trying to follow the instructions so you can look at this in your own time and understand what you're doing. So you can change that to okta.com for the time being. If you scroll down, keep going. Yeah, right there. Yeah, just put those two in there so you can copy exactly what they have. So if I'm not around and you wanted to continue looking at this, you know where you are. So this is,
Okta.com?
yep. And you can also put the password that they have too for the time being, because once you're comfortable with it, you'll change it anyway. Once you're comfortable, you'll probably put your password, you'll probably put your email, but right now just follow what they have. So now we can go to one of the requests to create a user with a password and recover, make sure your Postman's working. So let me see your variables now.
Word. Oh, and to
It's
put
right there
that
if you want to,
password in there too, right?
yeah, if you want to copy it. I know it's one of the options there.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. Awesome. And just click save just to make sure that it's saved at the top. I'm a stickler for that. Oh, no. Just the save button. That's right next to fork. If you scroll down a little bit and over. Yeah, right above your cursor. If you go up, it's like the top right.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, there you go. I just always have to make sure. Okay, so now that you've saved your variables, this means that technically you are connected to your environment. So what you'd want to do, and what they say in your notes, is go back to collections. And let's click the first one where it says create user with password and recovery question. I think that's the one they said. So it looks like you can just hit send and it should actually, okay, you worked. It says 200, which is a successful call. And if you scroll down, you can probably pull, if you hover over that 200, you can probably pull that tab up a little bit if you want to look at it a little bit more. Yeah. So there you go. Isaac, Brock, Isaac, Arthur, whatever. So you just let's see, who's a major player in the cowboy scene? Okta. So now go back to your environment, your Okta environment.
Wait, where did this Isaac Brock come from?
I think they probably just, created it. I think they have a library of just fake generic users that you can test.
They as in like that
library.
JSON thing that we
Yeah.
pulled from here.
Yeah.
So they basically populated all this information so that we can run this particular, but we can press this particular button to create that Isaac in here. Like
And
there
if
should be
you
an
actually,
Isaac in here now, right?
yeah, so let's first check if Isaac is in there. Yep. So as you can see, he's staged, meaning he hasn't, he hasn't approved it yet, but he is an active user. And you can activate it also within Postman, but I'll show you that later. But go back to Postman really quick because I want to show you something.
So we could have changed these things in here to make any user, basically. Instead of Isaac, I could have put Rafi, blah, blah, blah,
Exactly. So go
and run
to
it again.
body, go to body.
This is the body, I think.
Actually go to headers. I'm trying to think of, because that's actually where they set the variables. Can you scroll down a little bit? I don't think we can see it because can you hover above the 200 and can you bring it down a little bit? Yeah, can you bring that down a little bit? Yeah, that's what I want to see. Now, can you click body next to headers? Okay, that's what I wanted to see. So here is the actual fake information that they have in here. So I would like you to, so you can feel comfortable, edit this information with whoever you want. You could put your name in there. You could put my name in there. You can put, and as you notice, that email suffix is that okta.com that you added, right? So you can leave that actually as okta.com, or you can change it to gmail.com, right? You can change it to the domain that you want. So you can test this out. And this is you changing how in real time you can have them pushed into your environment, have them created into your environment. Good, we got 2 minutes left. So I'd like to see you do this.
Okay, so
here you can just put my name. You could say, Val Goldman. Or yeah, you could put your name. It doesn't matter. And the suffix will be okta.com. But of course, you can change it to whatever you want. But you can leave, because remember that email suffix, that's a variable that you set in your environment.
right. I could make it gmail.com or something like that.
Right. So, yep, you can update that.
But
Okay.
whatever email suffix we choose there, is it gonna send them an email at that address to verify this or something, or to?
Yeah, but I mean, if it's not a real email, it doesn't matter. You could use like mail in here. It really doesn't matter because you're just doing this for testing purposes. So now if you go back to your environment, I should be in there. Good job. And I would say, let's see, I know we're about to wrap up. So I would say if you want to continue on the rest of this lab, I'm happy to continue on it. If you want to play with it some more and go through whatever else they have in here, feel free. But it's totally up to you. But yeah, you're technically set up already. So if you want to continue going through this and testing out a few other things, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I'll meet with another coach later tonight and we'll go over some of these things together.
Awesome.
I think this
All
is a
right.
good lab. I think this is we should definitely finish this one out. There's some good stuff in here.
Awesome. Well,
Cool.
great job.
Yeah, thank you, Valerie. You too. It was very helpful. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Talk to you later.
Okay, talk soon. Bye.
Bye.